Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Trosk and this is the Monk class for the new Tales of the Valiant role-playing game coming from Kobold Press, probably in PDF form pretty soon, because in the article that this is from, they say that the books are at the printer, so we're probably going to be expecting the PDFs soon, but they already teased the Monk class. Now I say this is the Monk class, but it's only 2 pages of the Monk class, so it's all of the first level features, and then one second level feature, an important one, and then the second level feature that is in the table here we don't see, and then all of the others we only have the title of, but we can also see stuff like unarmored movement, we can stuff technique points, and that is the first thing I want to dig into, because for this version of the class, Kobold Press decided to get rid of key points. Now, I don't know exactly why people don't like key points, and I'm just like, I haven't read into why you would change that or want to change that, but they changed it over to technique points, and I actually really like that, because key points, to keep it very simple, key points, they kind of suggest that you as a class have some sort of mystic energy key going on that you use for your peculiar abilities, right? So it's kind of like arcane for a wizard and all of that stuff, but for the monk it is key that gives you those powers and gives you those mysterious powers that you as a monk only have due to meditating and spending your life in whatever form or place or mountain or waterfall to get those key points. They changed it to technique points, and I really like that, because technique points suggests for me that you can be any kind of monk. If you want to be a kickboxer, all of this that I see from the class here translates into being a kickboxer. Even if you're just a kickboxer who doesn't necessarily spend his time in like a monastery or whatever, you just want to build a Kickstarter, you want to build a kickboxer, technique points, you need technique to be a kickboxer, and you spend those points, and those are basically your the amount of energy you have to do perfect technical stuff for your the sport, the technique, the martial art you choose to be. So, monk as a class, 1d8 per monk level, same stuff. Weapons are simple weapons and short swords. All of these are, like we know, monk weapons. You have mastery of combat styles and that use unarmed strikes and monk weapons, which are short swords and any simple melee weapon that don't have the two-handed or heavy property. Now, there's something about this a little bit later that kind of strikes me as weird game design choice, but it's basically the same thing. You have simple weapons like a stick, I don't know, nunchucks are probably a simple weapon. I don't know if they're a simple weapon. Short sword is one of those, so if you want to build a monk kind of more ninja style-y, I don't know, you can really build it off of this class. You don't necessarily, you're not necessarily a monk like in the classical sense, but you can build it off of like the mechanics of this class. Really cool if you want to like be that kind of ninja quick with a short sword kind of thing. So all of your weapons, your simple weapons, your short swords, or your fists, or your feet do 1d4 damage, and the damage goes up according to the monk table. I would have loved seeing 1d12 here at 20th level. I would have loved like 1d12, because the d12 is the coolest die in the game, and it's the most underused die in the game, and I would really love that. You use dex and strength, and there's some things that you just get standard at level 1 that in the original Player's Handbook, 5th edition Player's Handbook, you only get like later. For example, when you're hit with a ranged attack, weapon attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage you take from the attack by 1d10 plus your dex modifier plus your monk level. That's quite a bit. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile or thrown weapon, and if it's small enough for you to hold in one hand, you have at least one hand free. If you can catch a missile this way, you can make a ranged attack with the weapon. Basically, it's a deflect missile, but you get it at level 1. Basically. Now, if you reduce the damage to 0, this will happen quite a lot in the earlier stages of the game, and it won't happen that much in the later stages of the game. You're not gonna get shot by somebody that does like 40 damage per hit, and then it will be really hard to reduce that to 0 damage, right? You can still reduce that damage, but to 0, really damn hard. So I like it being in the first level because in Player's Handbook, original Player's Handbook, it only started at 3rd level. So the actual usability of it was much less like expanded across the levels, because you hit a certain point in the game where it just doesn't happen that much and you just don't use it that much. So starting at level 1 is actually a pretty good design choice, according to my humble opinion as a guy on the internet. When you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon on your turn, you can make one unarmed strike as a bonus action. For example, if you take the attack action attack with a quarterstaff, you can also make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, assuming you haven't already taken a bonus action this turn. So basically, you get your bonus action attack immediately at level 1. If you attack with a weapon or your fists, you can kick. It's an unarmed strike. You can see that as a kick. It's a D4. It becomes a D6, and it becomes a D8, and it becomes a D12. Sorry, a D10 later. So it's cool to have all of these things. This stuff we've always seen as basic monk stuff, to have all of that at level 1. Unarmed defense is just your AC equals 10 plus Dex plus Wisdom. Now, here's a little bit that's weird. There's techniques. And techniques are basically your key points. You have 3, starting at level 2, you have 3 technique points. You can spend those on Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, Step of the Wind, and there might be others, but I don't know if there's others, right? 8 plus proficiency bonus plus wisdom modifier is your DC for it. Now, for the Flurry of Blows, immediately after you use an action on your turn, you can spend 1 technique point to make 2 unarmed strikes or make 1 attack with a monk weapon as a bonus action. I find that weird. I find that a little bit weird because the entire idea of a monk is having all weapons, your fists, your feet, your freaking elbow, your hat, your chin, your short sword, your stick, your whatever you're doing, as long as it's a monk weapon, they all do the same amount of damage. So when you choose to hold a short sword, which does at level 2 1d4 damage, you can only do 1 attack with that when you use Flurry of Blows. But when you're not holding it, you can do 2 attacks with your fists. But the two fists also dish out 1d4 per fist. So, holding a short sword, you get punished for holding a monk weapon this way, instead of going bare fist. And that kind of strikes me as odd. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I agree with that. And I would actually, in my game, tell people, like, you know what, monk's great class, play the monk if you want to, but the entire idea of the monk is making every weapon the monk uses the same, because it's all a monk weapon. So this rule for me should also be the same across a short sword, a stick, or your fists. You can attack maybe, I don't know, with your short sword and then you give them an elbow. I don't know, doink, something like that. That's what the monk is all about. Or short sword kick. Something like that, you know, that's what the monk for me is all about. So I do not agree with that, but I like that it's technique points now. There's patient defense. You can spend 1 technique point to take the dodge action as a bonus action on your turn. And then you can spend 1 technique point to take the disengage or dash action as a bonus action on your turn. When you do so, your jump distance is doubled until the start of your next turn. So you can also do that out of combat if you want to jump over a pit. Now, something that I don't get here, this might be completely wrong of me, but make 2 unarmed strikes or make 1 attack with a monk weapon as a bonus action. But here you already get an unarmed strike as a bonus action if you choose to make a weapon attack or an attack. So if you have a short sword and you make an attack action with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon, so you have a short sword, so you make an attack action with a monk weapon on your turn, you can make 1 unarmed strike as a bonus action. So if you do that, there's never going to be a situation where you do the Flurry of Blows, because you already had a bonus action. So you already spent your bonus action on your standard level 1 thing, so there's never going to be a situation where you are going to do Flurry of Blows. I mean, I could be... Somebody, please correct me. I'm just a guy on the internet. I might be full of complete utter bullshit, and I might be completely wrong. Please put that in the comments below, because I'm just a guy who interprets it this way. It might be completely different, but that's just the way I'm seeing it. I don't agree with this. I don't know why. There's a bug here for me. So other than that, they gave the monk progression table. There's multi-attack. Stunning strike is here, of course. Empowered strikes. There's, of course, subclasses we don't really know about. Diamond Soul. Sounds really cool, right? Diamond Soul, 14th level ability, Timeless Self, Perfect Motion, all stuff that really sounds that they want to make the monk actually feel and play like a monk. Until next video, bye-bye.